Hey, what is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Now let's talk Gran Turismo 7, specifically updates within Gran Turismo 7, a game which has been, well, to be honest, very lackluster in terms of its updates, with people still defending 7-8 months down the line that, something will come. I mean, honestly, at this point, I feel like it's possibly a little bit too late for a majority of those players that were there when the game first released and even stuck by it for the first month or so when it was all kind of kicking off about microtransactions and, servers going down and things like that. Honestly, I feel like a lot of them people have gone, and I honestly don't think they'll come back. However, there's still a strong bunch of us which are still kind of putting up with it and still, going along with it to see, really, is there any kind of long-term plan with this, or is the drip feeding all we're going to get? But enough of the negativity. I want to kind of, continue a series which actually started a couple of updates ago, which is essentially a wish list. Now, this will be a wish list for myself. Then what I'll do, if you guys kind of make your opinions on what you guys want to see, I'll compile them into a separate video. And, obviously drop your name and stuff, obviously, if that's fine with you guys. And we'll kind of see overall what the community wants from update to update. See what's changed, what's been added, and really how our opinion changes on this game over time. Now, I feel like Gran Turismo 7 is honestly at a really low point in terms of its fan base. It's just people either love it and will defend it no matter what and cannot see anything wrong with anything Polyphony do, or you have those people that are just outright displeased and they will make sure you know about it. Then obviously you do have the people in the middle. While I'm not entirely happy, I'm still holding out hope slightly that something will come of this game. So let's get the wish list started. And honestly, I feel like the main thing Polyphony need to add, and it's a feature which me personally I'm completely not bothered about, is selling cars. Now, you may also be wondering, why am I not bothered about selling cars? Well, if you remember recently, I did a video on how it's going to work. Data miners have pretty much said it's been ready, on their side since update 1.15 to 1.17, which just feels like, a decent chunk of time ago at this point. I believe that's kind of when the Toyota hypercar actually came in. So obviously it's been ready for a while and it's still not in the game. This is as of update 1.25. Now, in the run up to update 1.25, I was pretty much certain it would have been added in. Honestly, at that point, with the data miners picking up, that it's definitely ready at this point, I thought, what, it's got to have been implemented. They're gonna put it in there. It's gonna satisfy those people, and it's gonna be in the game. However, I do have a bit of a cynical view on the selling cars, because if you watch that video, you'll realize the selling cars doesn't work quite how most people think it's going to be. It's not going to really necessarily be a case of push square, sell your car, there's your set price, job done. It's going to be quite messy, and honestly, I think those people that were holding out for that feature are going to be even more displeased when it's actually in. Now, I actually have my own way of doing this, and it's a long shot, but I personally think it's a much better way of doing it. An auction house. I think we should, if they're going to implement it in a way that we have to value the cars and such, have an auction house where players can buy, cars from each other, parts from each other, which will be another, point later on in the video. But honestly, I think being able to, bid on cars or have a set price for it and such, that's kind of in a limited capacity, so people just don't go ridiculous and someone ends up with 90 million credits for a Honda Beat or something like that. Kind of give us a limit and a minimum and a maximum, and let the bids just run up. I feel like it would work very, very well. I think it would please a lot of people, and it really does give you kind of that community feeling, trying to outbid someone on this car which has been in the legendary dealer recently, and you just missed it, but now it's possibly your chance to go and get it for just a touch bit cheaper. Would honestly really just bring a lot of people back, and I think it would massively improve the selling car feature, which honestly, I think when it is implemented to GT7 will just cause more, rage than anything. I genuinely don't think it'll work too well, but that's my honest opinion. Let me know what you guys think. Up next, honestly, I think updating the GT3 and GT4 class would be a must at this point. You know, they are very focused on the sport mode in this game. It seems to get a lot more kind of recognition, obviously weekly basis, rotating constantly, than the single player of this game. Honestly, once you're done with the single player, there's not much else to do other than go into the online racing. Now, in terms of the sport mode, I think if they updated the main cars which get used, which are the Group 4 and the Group 3 cars, getting that roster updated and, you know, at a quicker pace would massively benefit those modes as well. Obviously, you know, it isn't just a single player game. I want the online community to be happy as well, and with people crying out for these updated GT3 cars is honestly quite a big point. And I'd feel like as other games come out that feature those kind of machines, kind of, you know, bringing more updated models along, then there's a risk that, you know, Gran Turismo could fade away even in the online scene. You know, if their cars are 10 years old and you're only racing machines from, you know, 10 years ago at some point, and, you know, this fresh new sim comes out with all the new GT3 machines you could want, then, you know, obviously where are those players going to go? I think if they honestly get updating this roster, it will be a huge benefit to them. And I don't care if it's just, you know, a couple of cars per update. Obviously, they used to shove out 10 at a time in GT Sport. Now, obviously, I'm not, you know, going to say they're going to be shoving 10 at a time, but if they release, say, 5 cars at a time, and, you know, 1 or 2 of them are updated Group 3 and Group 4 cars, pretty quickly that's going to begin to update that roster. There's a ton of cars that are almost reaching a decade old. Obviously, we just had the GT3 GTR updated, and there's many others that are in need of that treatment too. Now, this is a more personal one for me, obviously, and obviously licensing has a lot to do with the cars that come into GT7, but bring back Opel or Vauxhall, whichever one you want to call them. They were one of the coolest brands in this game, and you know, on top of that, let's add Lotus. You know, again, a brand which you see people absolutely crying out for. Honestly, those 3 brands, or well, essentially what are 2 brands with the same vehicles, produce some of the most, you know, nostalgic cars ever released within any Gran Turismo games. You know, you've got the Elise GT1, you have the Elise kind of cup car as well, which was sort of like this midnight, like really dark metallic-y green, which looked awesome. For some reason, I really remember that. I believe it was on gold wheels as well. You have obviously the Vauxhalls and Opel touring cars. You have the Calibra, the Astras. You know, they were all really, really cool cars, and I honestly would love to see them come back. Obviously, that is a more personal one to me, but let me know what you guys think. Which brand do you think should really return to Gran Turismo? There's a few brands missing, you know, like I said, namely Lotus, Vauxhall and such, but yeah, let me know which one you guys want to see return. Now, this is one I actually spoke about, you know, quite highly on my list in terms of my wish list before a couple of updates ago, and that's endurance races. Bring more back. Make use of all these tracks that have not got any use to them, because honestly, a lot of tracks deserve a lot more events, and I feel like the best thing to do, bring endurance events to them. Now, quite quickly, Polyphony got on the whole endurance event thing, but since kind of the early release of the game, we've not seen any longer events put in the game. And I'm talking, you know, at least 1 to maybe 5 hour races. We've seen literally nothing. Now, I do genuinely think there may possibly be rules around doing 24-hour races, or at least, you know, a company putting them within the game. If you do them custom, I feel like, you know, that's down to you at that point. But you hear so many weird things. Now, hear me out here. This is such a really strange off topic to go on. You hear many people, especially in places like Asia where internet cafes are a thing, doing massive 24, 48 hour non-stop sessions and then having a heart attack. Now, I know that's really grim, and I'm not just saying it just happens in Asia, but that's the main place you hear about it from. So I feel like, obviously, with Polyphony being from that region, there could possibly, you know, be rules around why they can't go extra long with the endurance races. But for me, you know, 1 to 5 hours seems reasonable, and I genuinely feel like it would improve the racing. You know, everybody seems to cry out for endurance events, everybody seems to love them, and it even gives those tracks that feel like they've not got much love from Polyphony just that bit of extra, you know, I guess, beefing up in terms of the events that they have. However, I'm going to play a bit of an Uno Reverso card. If Polyphony want to take time away from focusing on adding events into the game, now, hear me out, this is a bit of a decent one in my opinion. why don't they update the prices on custom races, make them worth our while? So whatever we scale them to what the game would actually pay out for them. You know, we've got obviously Spa, which is an hour, which pays 1.5 million with a clean race bonus. Allow us to do that, allow us to earn the clean race bonus and scale the custom races. This kind of negates the need to, you know, add events to the game constantly. They can completely focus on whatever they want at that point. If custom races up to par, you know, we can set our own races up. If I want to do a 24-hour storm race at the Nürburgring, I can do it, but adjust my payout to make that worth my time, you know. And that's the reason why custom races don't get used much, is because it's honestly not worth many people's time. So I think that is a massive thing they could do to really just, you know, get the resources away from making events, which most people just don't like the ones they keep adding, and allows us to just take charge of the game in terms of the events that we do, especially if you make them worthwhile, so that we can actually earn some decent money from it. Now I'm actually going to double this one up. More nostalgia tracks, more rally tracks. I feel like rally has just been completely overlooked, and while it was absolutely terrible on release, it's definitely improved as we've kind of had changes to the game. I feel like rally is definitely much needed. Now, one of my favorite things to do in previous GT games, when they had like the Peugeot 206s, the Imprezas, the Hyundai Altezza rally car, I cannot remember the name of it for the life of me within like Gran Turismo 3 and 4 and stuff, but you know, jumping those rally cars around and the tracks that they were used on was actually quite impressive. They was really well made, and I just feel like it's completely faded from memory, the rallycross and dirt driving from GT7. Yes, we had the Barcelona layout, but that kind of came along with the other layouts. So mainly we got, you know, one event there for a week, and then it just kind of faded from most people's memories. But I feel like, you know, bring those classic rally cars back from the previous games, things like your 206, your Impreza, proper Impreza rally cars and such, and honestly just let us go wild, you know, play on that nostalgia that we had. And it's the same for the normal tracks, you know, Autumn Ring, you know, Grand Valley, which I believe is coming anyway. Midfield Raceway is a big one for me. For some reason I absolutely love that track, even though it was so basic. You know, play on the nostalgia of your fan base, and I can guarantee you will see players flooding back to this game. In all honesty, that is what they need to do, as well as like obviously bring in real world tracks. Me personally, I absolutely hate the way they make their modern kind of original tracks now. You know, the ones that were kind of in GT Sport, to me, are just boring. But that is my personal opinion. But if you look at the tracks they used to make, they all had such character and personality to them, and they really made them sort of staples of any racing game. Although obviously they never left the GT franchise, it was just almost like they felt as close to real as possible, while still having a ton of character about them. Another thing that are playing the nostalgia of many people, bring or allow us more freedom to create more wacky builds. Whilst in GT7 we can still create some really ridiculous cars, to be honest. You know, things like the VGT cars on dirt tires, and Suzuki Cappuccinos that roll over when you just flick them around the corner. You know, play on that more, because honestly, if you open up the freedom in terms of running the most ridiculous builds on dirt and everything like that, I honestly feel like it's just kind of part of what Gran Turismo is about. It's weird, it's wacky, and it's just so polyphony, in all honesty. There were so many crazy cars back in, you know, Gran Turismo 2, 3, 4, and I just feel like there's not as many in GT7. It's trying to take itself far too seriously as an esports racer, that it's just forgetting how dumb these kind of series of games were at times. I mean, who knows, maybe polyphony will listen, but, you know, I highly doubt it. So that's going to be it for my wish list. I do have more to talk about, so I may extend this at some point. Let me know what you guys want from the next few updates, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Take care, guys. Peace.